Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. I'm so excited to share this topic with you guys today. Something that I've had a few questions about, and I think it's important that we as women talk about it. Boys that are listening, close your ears or not. If you have a female that is training, working through a nutrition plan, if you are a female training, working through a nutrition plan, these are some important things that you need to know about how your menstrual cycle affects your weight gain each month, how you should train, how you should eat, and how that all changes every month. So first, I just want to talk to you guys specifically about our menstrual cycle, right? Like, nobody wants to talk about it, elephant in the room, but we should, because our bodies, women, we let's face it, we have a lot of hormones, right? We have a lot of hormones, and they come and go throughout the month. With our menstrual cycle, with ovulation, it's just a big roller coaster ride, not gonna lie. For some of us, it's a little bit easier than others, but unfortunately, it's something that we have to go through as a woman, and something that we have to deal with. So hats off to us, right? Can I get a high five? Like, we freaking are rock stars. So first, I want to kind of just break it down. So we all know, menstrual cycle, how many days and everything like that. But what does that specifically mean as far as hormones go? Well, we have a 28-day cycle typically. And the first half of the month, we are in more of a follicular phase, meaning our body is producing hormones. We're estrogen dominant. Where we are, we've had our menstrual cycle, and then, that's usually days 1 through 7, 1 through 5, depending if you're lucky, it's more like a 1 through 5. But your body, is shedding the lining of your uterus, and you're going to start producing that hormone to create and release an egg. And then ovulation usually happens on day 14. Now, we've all taken a health class. We all kind of know the basis of how this works. I'm breaking this down for you just so I can explain the hormonal changes. So estrogen dominant primarily those first 2 weeks of the month. And then we switch to a luteal phase. That's after the egg has been released, you've ovulated. And that goes all the way through to where your body is progesterone dominant, and your, our body's goal is release that egg, get pregnant, right? And then we have, all this progesterone throughout the rest of the month. And progesterone is the hormone that kind of increases all of those premenstrual syndromes. So that goes until the end of the month. The egg doesn't get fertilized. Boom, body's done, over it. Estrogen and progesterone levels drop off, and then we start the whole cycle over again. So what happens during that first couple weeks of the month with the estrogen dominant phase? Well, you know what? We have a little bit more of a mood, you might say. And that can vary, and that can kind of go through the whole month. But we have that first week of cycle. And sometimes we tend to be a little clumsier. Sometimes we tend to be a little, moodier, and then also a little bit more like rawr. So what's great about that is you can kind of start incorporating those strength training workouts early on in the month, because your body is a lot more receptive to strength training workouts during the first half of the month. And I don't mean, September 1st to September 30th. I mean the first 2 weeks of your cycle primarily. So if you don't have a calendar, if you don't track your cycle, if you're, eating on a nutrition plan, if you're following a workout routine, it's time to start tracking these things, because you need to be a little bit more in tune with your body. So those first couple weeks, increase your strength training. Your body is a lot more receptive to that. Our glycogen stores are a lot more dominant. So we're burning fat a little bit easier. And we're able to intake a little bit more carbohydrates during those first couple weeks of the month. So that's kind of a bonus for those of us that love carbs. But what's great about that is, your body's burning. You're able to see more intensity with your strength training workouts, and you're able to kind of focus a little bit more. Your precision is a little bit better. You can adapt a little bit easier to higher, like increasing your weights. Your body responds a little bit better. Your muscles are fueled a little bit better. So those first 2 weeks of your month's cycle are kind of key for just ramping up your workouts and just pushing yourself and going pretty hard. So what's also nice about that is, like I said, we can eat a little bit more carbs. You also need to increase your protein though, because your body's working a little bit harder, and you're kind of building some muscle there. So then, ovulation hits, our progesterone starts to go up after day 14. And what happens is we get a little bit of a shift, and it kind of changes a little bit. Things kind of reverse almost, in a sense, to where our hormones kind of flip-flop. So our estrogen drops off, right? And then what happens is as your progesterone increases, we start to get those premenstrual syndromes. So premenstrual symptoms, premenstrual syndrome. So as your body releases that egg, with the progesterone increasing, we start to have breast tenderness, bloating, water retention, inflammation. That's when we can tend to get headaches and things like that. These are all byproducts of just those hormonal changes. So how do you combat that? Well, you can combat that with higher intensity workouts, as far as some kind of high intensity interval training, cardio type workouts. You can boost, the amount that you sweat, so that way it helps decrease the amount of water that you're retaining. Increase your water intake. Your kidneys are little tiny powerhouses. So the more water you drink, the harder they're going to work, and the more that they're going to flush that water out. So any excess bloating, water retention you have, you can combat that by increasing your fluid intake so your kidneys flush that water out quicker. Decreasing your complex carbohydrate intake. I know, right? Like that last week before your cycle starts, hungry, craving sugar, sweets, ice cream, chocolate, things like that. Yes, that tends to happen, but decreasing your carbohydrate, overall carbohydrate intake during those couple weeks can really help your body adjust a little bit better, so you have less of those premenstrual symptoms. And you can actually kind of decrease the effect that has on your body. You up the intensity of your workouts. You sweat, you drink plenty of water, you increase your protein, you increase your healthy fats. So your body converts more into a higher fat burner. Your metabolism jumps up during those last 2 weeks of your monthly cycle. And you tend to burn a little bit more. Granted, we can bloat easier and we can retain water. Some women gain as much as 9 pounds in those last 2 weeks of the month. So unfortunately that happens, but like I said, you can combat that by doing a couple of those things. So let me talk to you guys specifically about nutrition, about how you can kind of adjust that whole, you tend to bloat, you tend to gain weight. What does that mean? Instead of eating, eating to satisfy our hormones during those specific times, we eat to kind of flip-flop them, to appeal to what our body can kind of soak up as we're doing. So like I said, we have that high craving towards the end of the month, but when we eat to a higher protein, when we eat to a higher fat, our body's going to continue to burn more fat, and we're going to kind of decrease those symptoms overall. So let me talk to you guys real quick about one more thing, and then I'll let you go. So, thinking about the overall gain during the month, and your first week of your month, you you tend to lose a little bit of weight if you've gained any like bloating, water retention. That first 5 days of your cycle is going to help flush any of that out. Also, you do need to increase your iron intake during that first week, because that, with blood loss, we need to have an increase in iron. So if you're a red meat eater, do that during that week. If you're not, there are plenty of other things you can eat that have iron in them that are going to help boost your iron intake. Beans are another great source of iron too. And then if you're doing pictures and measurements, let's think about this. So if you are, day 1 of your cycle, day 3 of your cycle, and you're like at your lowest body weight, body fat percentage, taking your pictures and measurements, you want to do that at the same exact time in your cycle the next month. So that way you're not taking your pictures and measurements on week 1 and week 3, where you could be bloated, gain weight, whatever it is, because that can definitely affect the way you look. It can affect the number on the scale. It can affect your measurements. If you've been trying to lose inches in your waist and you've retained a bunch of water and you're bloated, you're not going to see much of a change. I am not an advocate for using the scale by any means, but tape measure and just the way you feel are going to be the best indicator of how you're responding to a fitness and nutrition program. If you have to weigh yourself, try to do it on the exact same day of your cycle every month. And like I said, if you're not tracking your cycle, it's important that you do, just so that way you can kind of have a better idea with how to do your nutrition and how to do your workouts and things like that. So beginning of the month, the first couple weeks of the month, to recap, you're in that follicular phase. So you're able to increase your carb intake a little bit more, increase your the intensity of your lifting workouts, make your strength training workouts. Your best ones are going to happen in those first couple weeks of the month. That doesn't mean you have to eliminate them during the last couple weeks of the month. I'm just telling you, you're going to be better during those first couple weeks of your cycle. At the end, throw in those high intensity cardio workouts. Make sure you're getting some good sweats in. You've got to burn off that excess water retention and that bloating that we all get, and eat to your hormones. Eat higher protein all month long. That's a given. You can eat less carbs towards the end of the month, the end of your 28-day cycle, and more carbs towards the beginning of your 28-day cycle. Does that make sense, everyone? Higher fats towards the end, as well as you decrease your carb intake. Any questions about any of this, please post them in the comments below. Who's on? Hi, Julianne. Hi, Lindsay. So I hope this kind of makes sense to you guys. I hope this is kind of a good explanation of why we have those hormonal changes that we do, and why it's so important that we kind of stay in tune with our body and we kind of figure out exactly what it is that our body does during that 28-day cycle, how we change, how our hormones are shifted and altered, and how we can kind of appeal to that long term, and we can eat a little bit better and nourish our bodies to where we can kind of combat those side effects, those symptoms, and kind of just feel better overall. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much, you guys, for jumping on. I appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Have a great day.